Hi everyone, I'm Akane. I specialize in self-induced torture by taking games, predominantly Souls games, and making them harder than they already are. With Hollow Knight being close in difficulty to the Souls games, I knew Silksong would make for a good challenge. I wanted to do a challenge run for my first playthrough that still allowed me to experience everything the game had to offer, but at the same time forced me to learn the ins and outs of every boss. Which brought me to the question, can you beat Silksong without healing? Technically no, but humor me for a bit. Before moving on, make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more crazy runs like these, or just like seeing me suffer. If you would like to see some of my best and craziest reactions during the live stream, check out my second channel, Akane Light. That video should be out not too long after this one. I also have a VODs channel called Akane VODs for those who want the unedited version of this run. With that said, let's get into the rules for this run. Rule number 1, no healing, which means I can never use Bind, overdose on Plasmid for regenerating Mask, and no benches unless I'm already at full health, then I can sit at a bench. The only caveat to this rule is if the game forces me to heal, like for story purposes or when obtaining a new skill. Technically, for getting new skills or masks, I could be at full health before getting them, but the bench rule was rough enough, trust me. And lastly, rule number 2, beat all 3 acts. With the rules out of the way, let's get this adventure started. At the start of the game, we find Hornet, this game's main protagonist. She has been captured from Hollow Nest and brought to a new foreign land called Pharloom, where some mysterious force helps her escape, leading to the start of Act 1, where the game right off the bat forces you to heal. So to answer the question, can you beat Silksong with no healing? No, but I wasn't going to let that technically stop me. To start off, I play around a bit to get the hang of the movement, and for the most part it feels like Hollow Knight. I then come across one of the new resources in the game, Shell Shards, which will be very important for tools and quests later on. I then find out Hornet's down slash is actually a diagonal hit, which is very accurate to how Hornet acted in Hollow Knight, but at the time I wasn't too sure how I felt about it. After messing with the diagonal attack for a bit and exploring the area, I came across the first boss in the game, Moss Mother, who I immediately tested out pogoing on with the new diagonal attack. For those of you who do not know, pogoing is just attacking off the boss's head, launching yourself back into the air and doing it again and again, just like a pogo stick. This was a very common strategy to use in boss fights in Hollow Knight to get a lot of hits in, but off the bat I found it much harder to actually get consecutive pogos off with the diagonal attack. I'm pretty sure this was done intentionally by the devs to either reduce the amount of pogoing being done in fights or to increase the skill ceiling for it being done. Because now, with the diagonal attacks, you need to be more precise than before, and this will not just be for boss fights, but for platforming as well, but I will cover that in a bit. Overall, Moss Mother isn't a hard fight, she just dashes to the side, which can easily be avoided by jumping or pogoing over her. She summons a child or two to help her out, or she can bash her head against the wall to make rocks fall, which did more damage to her children than it did to me. So, after a few dead bug children and some well-timed pogos, Moss Mother went down. With Moss Mother defeated, Hornet has a bit of a blackout moment to wake up to the chapel maid smacking her on the head like a good grandmother figure that she is. We find out that Hornet was captured by the overly faithful bugs of the Citadel, which then gives us our first main quest, the Great Citadel, to hunt down these bugs and find out why they captured Hornet. With my new objective in hand, I come across Bone Bottom, which is a small camp of pilgrims, who in the future I will need to help out so that I can make it to Act 3. Further into Bone Bottom, I stumble into the adorable Sherma, who believes he can open the gate by singing. Not wanting his efforts to go to waste, I fight my way through a horde of bony bugs to die. This no healing thing might be harder than I thought. I fought my way back to defeat the first of many arena gauntlets so that I could make Sherma's miracle come true. I actually really like this moment because Hornet could just tell Sherma she was the one to open the gate, but she just lets him be happy to think his singing did the job. Also, right after this, we are introduced to beads, which are this game's currency. You can use beads to buy items, open up fast traveling, or more importantly, access benches that you cannot use because you're missing one mask. Lovely. Quickly realizing my poor life choices, I come to the Marrow, a place covered with deadly lava, fragile platforms that fall apart after stepping on them, and enemies with pots on their heads that can't be damaged through pogoing. I think Team Cherry really didn't like the fact that people were pogoing so much in Hollow Knight. While in the Marrow, I found the Shard Pendant. The Shard Pendant is a tool which is this game's versions of charms from Hollow Knight, but works a tad different since there are 3 categories they work from. In this case, Shard Pendant is a yellow tool, which yellow tools usually just help with passive abilities, like getting more resources, player movement, or displaying the player's position on the map. The other tool types are red and blue, but I will go over them when we get there. Speaking of maps, we also meet Shakra, who will sell us maps of specific locations we have already visited. Being a bit broke at the moment, I just get the Moss Lands map and the quill so that when I do sit or revive at a bench, I can fill in the incomplete maps. After getting my map and quill, I make it to Moss Home, where Team Cherry thought it would be funny to place traps. You sick, sick bastards. While avoiding traps and bugs, I also acquired my first silk skill, Silk Spear. Say that 10 times fast. Silk Spear is pretty much as its name states, it is a lance attack with fairly long range that uses silk, which is the player's mana resource, which I can use to free this little guy, who apparently was a boss. Noted, helping others will just lead to your own demise. Also, what the fuck, Team Cherry? We're only 2 bosses in and we're doing 2 mass damage? Talk about a jump in difficulty off the bat. Now, I know the heal in this game does 3 mass, but it also requires a good amount of silk to do so. I won't dive too deep into this yet, but it is a subject matter I do want to go into. Belle Beast is very similar to Moss Mother, but instead she can't summon ads and she trades out rocks for bells. But even with how simple her pattern was, with double the damage and bad positioning, it led to my death twice. So on round 3, I finally hunkered down and took the fight seriously. I made sure to position myself for proper pogo hits, took advantage after the beast landing to get multiple hits off, and when my silk bar was full, I would use Silk Spear for big damage. With doing those 3 things, I was able to pull out the win, and through this win, I get sent to a weird dreamscape where I had to do some platforming to get a new ability called Silk Heart, which just generates 1 bar of silk when you run out. Also, after the fight, the Belle Beast decides we are now BFFs and allows me to ride her for fast traveling purposes. Part of me was like, why would I be friends with someone who wanted to fight me after helping them? But then the Belle Beast played in the bells and I instantly forgave her and loved her more than any of the other NPCs in the game. Essentially the same relationship I have with my husky. Back at Bone Bottom, there is now a bulletin board with side quests, which is very interesting because Hollow Knight had side quests but not in a traceable format, which I 100% get behind. I then work on a few quests to get money to buy some items, free a flea, which is this game's versions of Hollow Knight's grubs, and get my first blue tool, the Druid's Eye. Blue tools will passively help the player by enhancing red tools, reducing damage from fire, or even turning your normal jumps into an attack. This is where you can start to see the different type of builds players can come up with. While doing side quests, I also came across my first red tool, the Straight Pin. Red tools are offensive weapons or buffs you can use to help in battle. Each tool has their own limited amount that can be used. To refill the tool usage, you will need to use shards at a bench, which at the start of the game, that's not that big of a deal, but later on, it does become more of a hindrance, but I will discuss that when we get there. I then stumble upon an enemy blocking a door who I'm pretty sure the devs didn't want me to fight yet, because no matter how many times I would try and dodge his jump attack, I just couldn't get away. I probably needed a dash ability to deal with him, but I found if I lure him to where the roof is low, he can't jump. And if I just run away after every hit, he will go back underground. So I just repeated this until he died. allowing me to access the Hunter's March, an area ruled over by the ants and have rosebuds that you can pogo off of. At least I think they're rosebuds, but this is where I start to have a personal issue with the diagonal attack. This area is set up for traversing through pogoing, and when you have to do a fairly precise diagonal hit, it can lead to some missed shots. I just found the diagonal pogoing to be a bit frustrating since it didn't flow as well as the traditional horizontal sweep, but my gripes with all this changes later on when we get to Crest. I do want to point out how cool it is when you kill an ant, the little ants come out to carry the dead ant bodies away. I thought that was a very nice detail to have to make the world feel more alive and real. While struggling to get through the Hunter's March, I come to one of the mini arena matches this game likes to throw at you. The fun thing about this one is Shakra comes to help and makes things a bit harder. She was supposed to help you, but I found her attacks just cluttering up the screen more and made it hard to see when the enemy was attacking. So I ended up dying a good bit of times before I finally pulled off the win. I then ran into another arena match which was much easier to deal with when soloing. And after that I obtained the dash ability in Deep Docks. Deep Docks is essentially the Marrow but a lot more lava and machinery. I then do another arena match. Team Sherry went a bit nuts with these. Trust me, there's a lot more. Once done with that, I meet the Forged Daughter, who sells some more tools, a tool upgrade, and bundles of shards. If only Pharloom's economy didn't reflect the US economy, I probably could have bought something. I then did some more exploring while bullying the locals out of their lunch money, to then come across a white mushroom. Okay, I know she's not a mushroom, but I have no clue what bug she could be by looks alone. So the white mushroom that goes by the name Lace decided to pick a fight with the baddie that is Hornet. It just sucks that Hornet is being controlled by me because the first round didn't go so well. Also, did Lace just do the evil anime laugh? Funny enough though, on round 2, Lace really wasn't that hard. She has a lot of openings. You can pogo off her head after she does her multi-swing attack, her dash attack, or even after her jump attack. Now, I had to be careful not to pressure her too much because she can parry my attacks, but if this happens, I could just run away to avoid the retaliation. In between all of this, I would throw straight pins to get some chip damage in, and use Silk Spear when I had the chance. Once Lace HP gets low enough, she starts to incorporate a grab attack that is telegraphed by the bright white circles, which is usually easy to dodge, but I made a misplay near the end, getting caught in it, ruining my no-hit. Because just right after that, I was able to defeat Lace with 2 Silk Spears back to back. A super easy fight. She definitely won't become one of the most pain-inducing fights in the game. With my future set in stone, I get access to the Far Fields, which are a bunch of fields that are far, far away, where I get a quest from the seamstress to collect the spines of said bug's name. So I hunt down the spiky fellas and destroy their spines to turn into the seamstress to earn me the Drifter's Cloak, which will now allow me to fly up strong winds and glide in the air, which apparently one giant robotic beetle does not like that I can do. The 4th chorus, aka Pimp Ham 9000, got some hands on him. To add to the fun of flying pimp hands, the magma floor can be destroyed and the lava does 2 masks of damage, which is a bit much for environmental damage. There really isn't any need for that, which I do believe recently they fixed in a recent patch, so that's good to see. On top of destructible floors and flying hands, we have falling molten rocks. Definitely didn't distract me, leading me to be pimp slapped to death. Really, there wasn't anything crazy I had to do for this fight. With how high up the boss's head was, I could only do up swings to get hits in, and the only time I could get Silk Spear off was when the boss got stunned, which didn't happen often. So I had to just keep jumping around, smacking away, until the floor was removed right from underneath me. I guess that's what I get for playing aggressive. It's okay, round 4 will be a lot better. Jesus fucking Christ, it hasn't even been 30 seconds yet. So I don't know how I did it, but I was somehow able to survive for another 2 minutes without getting hit to pull out the win. Talk about RNGesus being on my side for that one. After that miracle of a win, I hit up the Forged Daughter to buy String Shard. And I remember that there was a side area in Hunter's March that I couldn't access because I didn't have Glide, so I rushed on over to check it out. You have no clue how much I regret doing this. This area is the Chapel of the Beast, and this is the most frustrating boss in the entire fucking game. Savage Beastfly on its own isn't hard to deal with. It has a very simple attack patterns of dash attacks and head slams. Where things get frustrating is when it starts summoning ads, which doesn't sound too bad at first, seems very manageable, and Savage Beastfly can even kill the ads with his head slam attack, which should make things easier, except asshole over here can just start spamming ads out of the fucking wazoo. So the entire screen becomes a fucking death trap with no escape. The issue I have with this fight is it's just a DPS check, because if you can kill the ads fast enough, you're fine. But if you can't, you're screwed. And with some enemies taking up to 4 hits to kill, it wasn't a fun experience. And on top of that, the ads drops are random, so you could get easy enemies to deal with, or you could get harder ones. Personally, I prefer boss fights with well-designed fights that feel like a puzzle to solve, not basic boss designs with hordes of trash mobs. One is fun and rewarding, while the other is just boring and frustrating. I do have an example of a game that does use ads well in boss fights, but I will go over that with another boss that has this same issue. To be transparent, I am probably under level for this area and should have left and came back later, but I had no clue how soon I would get my next silk skill or even my first needle upgrade. So I said fuck it and threw myself at this wall of a boss until I won, and I'm happy to say I did, and this is how I did it. The first key to this fight is being very aggressive. That means getting every overhead pogo and stomach hit you can get. I also found you can get hits off on his head slam attacks. If you just stand off to the side a bit, you can hit the boss on every head slam. When the boss would get stunned, I would only use normal slashes. The reason I'm not using Silk Spear is because at this point the boss could summon ads, and I would use Silk Spear to help me kill them as fast as possible. When he starts to summon multiple ads, I would take advantage of this to get more hits on him while he is screaming. By also doing this, I would be close to the boss to bait out a head slam and then walk next to the ads so that the boss would target that area, killing said ads. This is pretty much the entire strategy. I just had to hope I wouldn't die. And on my 47th attempt, I finally did it. And what did I earn for all my troubles? The Beast Claw Crest, which changes my attacks to short-range claws and has the unique ability to heal through attacking. Simply, I did this for fucking nothing, because I will never use this crest. Awesome. You know what's also awesome? When you have full health and you can sit at a bench, but come to find out, the bench is a booby trap, reducing your health by 2. So now I can no longer sit at said bench unless I die. Fuck you, Team Cherry, fuck you. With being screwed over by Team Cherry, I kept on exploring the far fields until I ended up at Greymore, where I get to meet Craig, the innkeeper and new, who gives me a quest to kill 100 different bugs, so I make sure to get to work on that immediately. While hunting for new bugs, I come across one who uses scissors and can travel between platforms, which is really cool and terrifying at the same time. I then came across the Chapel of the Reaper, which had me excited since the last chapel gave me a new crest. So once again, I am thrown into another arena match to prove my worth to earn me the Reaper crest. The Reaper crest changes my attacks into large arches and thankfully gives me a normal bottom slash. On top of this, the Reaper crest can build silk faster, which is great for using silk skills. I do want to get into crests, but I will wait until we get a few more to talk in depth about them. Right after this, I am introduced to Moorwing. Apparently, this is a boss a lot of people were having issues with, but personally, I didn't think he was that hard of a fight. Don't get me wrong, I did die to him 12 times, but that was due to me not realizing you can avoid his double saw attack by standing underneath him and just jumping. The other thing that screwed me over was poorly timing the Reaper down slash. You see, the Reaper down slash isn't like Hollow Knight's down slash. It has a bit of a gap to it, and if you're not high enough, you'll get hit while using it. So my deaths were on me not playing properly. But once I realized these mistakes, I found getting hits and pogos off on him really easy, and his moves are really well telegraphed. So I'm a bit shocked that people wanted this guy nerfed when there are much harder bosses to come. With that said, I thought Moorwing was well-designed boss and enjoyed learning him. With Moorwing defeated, I gain access to Bellheart, whose locals seem a bit tied up at the moment. The local hermit informs me that the citizens of Bellheart are basically in the Matrix, and I have a choice to end their endless happy dreams or let them stay in Neverland. Fuck that, I'm waking those bitches up. Like hell, y'all get to sleep while the rest of us have to go work. With my newfound passion to wake up those lazy bugs, I come to Shellwood, the home of hunter bugs, evil flowers, and evil sticks. I also meet Greyroot, who sends me on a quest to find polyp hearts throughout Shellwood, which ended up leading me to my next boss fight, Sister Splinter. Sister was a fun fight for the most part. She has a simple 3-attack string where you can get hits in after every attack, and she can summon vines that enclose the area, but you can hit those vines to break them, or she can even break them herself. The part I didn't enjoy was that she summons ads. The ads here do nothing to enhance the fight, and on top of that, they deal 2 massive damage. I would get this if they were elite enemies later on in the game, but for an early game boss, this just feels weird for basic mobs doing 2 mask worth of damage. Now, by having these ads in the fight, does it make it harder? Of course. But just making it harder by throwing trash mobs at the player isn't always fun. It's just being used to make up for the lack of boss design. With that said, you can have ads in fights that actually enhance the fight. A good example of this is in Ninja Gaiden. In Ninja Gaiden, when playing on normal mode, the majority of bosses do not have any ads at all, which only leaves room for the player to just do normal attacks. Ninja Gaiden has special attacks called Ultimate Techniques, or UTs as the NG community calls them. But in most cases, you can't just use a UT on a boss. The bosses will just outright block it. But when ads come into play in hard mode, you have what's called Essence. When an essence is absorbed, it will allow for an instant UT. So now in this boss fight, whereas before I couldn't use a UT, I can now kill an ad to have an essence drop. I can then hit the boss with an upward slash, and on the way down, I can do an on-landing UT to then do major damage to the boss, whereas on the lower difficulties, I couldn't do that. By having these ads in the fight, it enhances the overall experience. They were not just put there simply to make up for the lack of boss design. With all that said, I do think Sister Splinter is a much better boss than Savage Beastfly, but I don't think it needed the ads in the fight. I would have much rather have some more complex vine attacks than trash mobs. Overall, for no healing, this fight wasn't that bad. Most of the struggle was with the ads, but once I started just using Silk Spear to take them out, I was able to finish this fight on my 8th attempt. With Sister taken care of, I earned my next movement tech, Cling Grip, which is pretty self-explanatory. With now having Cling Grip, I could make my way atop of Bellheart to find the Widow, who is the one behind putting all the residents into a deep slumber. The Widow is a spider who uses her silk to fling giant bells at the player in multiple directions and can even summon spike balls from the ground. When she is not throwing bells at you, she is trying to slice you open with her claws, which seems kind of crazy and cheeky at first until you get to her second phase where she just goes buck wild with throwing projectiles and chasing after you. With the constant barrage of attacks and even the strange shaking when the bells would hit the floor, it made it hard to not get distracted and get hit. Due to the pure chaos, I ended up dying 19 times. What ended up helping me win this fight was playing passively. For phase 1, the times I would attack were anytime she would run across the screen, I could get a single pogo off. When she would do her diagonal attack, I could get another pogo off. And when I had enough silk to use Silk Spear, I would use it when Widow was throwing bells. With doing all this, it would stun her, and for this to maximize damage output, I would do 2 basic slashes and then a Silk Spear. Because if you do 3 basic slashes or just a Silk Spear, this will make her recover, making you lose out on major damage. For phase 2, I pretty much do the same thing, but play even more passive. I would only pogo off her horizontal slash attack to build silk so that I could use Silk Spear on her. And with just that simple strategy alone, I almost no-hit Widow. With Widow defeated, that earned me the Needle Inn, which will now allow me to access specific locked doors, and with that win, the residents of Bellheart are free. Those lazy bums. Speaking of those lazy bums, they put up a quest board for me to do more work. I woke y'all up for y'all to get to work, not for me to do your work. Luckily, the needle expert in town was up for some work because he was able to upgrade my needle to do more damage and advised me to find some oil so that he can further upgrade my needle some more. With now having the wall climb ability and a stronger needle, I went back to the Marrow to get access to a secret area with an arena match. That was blocking a mass fragment, which was my 4th one, and when you have 4 fragments, you get an additional mask. So instead of dying in 3 hits, I die in 3 hits. Wait a minute, what the fuck? I then hit up Forge Daughter to buy a crafting kit, which will increase my tool's damage. Not being too sure what to do at this time, I started completing some quests, and one of them was fighting this little adorable guy right here. His little foot dance just looks like a dog who's doing a happy food dance. I then used a simple key to get access to more Deep Docks, which allowed me to get the Flint Slate. While exploring, I got lost and ended up at Sinner's Road and immediately regretted it. On top of that, the damn bench isn't working and it won't be for like another 30 or 40 hours until I figure out how to fix it. Oh yeah, this run was stupid long. Guess in the comments down below how long you think it took me to beat this run. After running away from the first level of hell, I found the Blasted Steps, which led me to finding the great Conchflies, who I had a blast fighting. Their attacks were extremely well telegraphed, which made getting hits in and even reflecting back their projectiles very straightforward. So when I did get hit, I felt like it was my own fault for playing poorly, which only led to me dying 4 times. Probably the best thing about this fight is how it gets you ready for future fights in Act 2, which I thought was a really good game and boss design. It's just a shame you can miss them and then not be prepared for those bosses, but still a fantastic fight nonetheless. With one of the Conch twins defeated and definitely not wanting revenge, I find the Pinterest, who trains me in the art of the pin, teaching me the Needle Strike ability that allows the player to have a charge attack, which I will never use because I never really found it useful. After wasting the Pinterest time, I head back to Greymore to do some more exploring, to end up finding the Silk skill Threaded Storm, which might possibly be the strongest skill in the game, with it being able to hit multiple times. And I found a second piece of a spindle to further increase how much silk that I can hold. Also at this time, I finished the flea quest of rescuing 5 fleas, which has the flea caravan move to a new location, and them gifting me the flea brew, which makes the player move and attack faster, which will be extremely helpful for the next boss fight. Speaking of said boss, hello Last Judge. Now, before getting into the actual fight, y'all already know we need to talk about the infamous runback. I'm not going to talk too much on this since there's plenty of videos that will do that, but my 2 cents on it is that in its current design, it's bad. I don't mind runbacks to bosses and platformers if you can use the movement tech that you have available at that time to be able to skip large chunks of it. Sadly, that was not the case for this runback, which left me and many others with a sour taste in our mouths. With that said, let's get into the fight. The Last Judge was a pretty challenging fight. Her first phase was really easy with practically only having 3 attacks, but once you got her to her second phase and she added fire and explosion to those attacks, she got a lot harder and ended up killing me 18 times. The key to winning this fight was the opposite of Widow's. It was being aggressive. Off the bat in phase 1, I would make sure to build up Silk quick so that I could get Silk Spear off when the judge would do her spin attack, which I could bait out by being close to her. I would then repeat this until she got stunned. When she was stunned, I would pop a flea brew so I could DPS her as fast as possible, so that when she comes out of the stun, she will go into her second phase, which I could keep getting hits off during that transition. For phase 2, it's pretty much the same, but this time I could get hits off after the judge does her dash attack or jump attack. Of course, once she is stunned, I could go for another flea brew for some quick DPSing. After this second stun, she won't get stunned again, so I make sure to just focus on the dash and jump attacks to build Silk to get Silk Spear off from a safe distance, and just repeat this strategy until she dies. Which Team Cherry was a bit cheeky at the end, with the boss having a Vegeta moment. Come on, Team Cherry, it's not like I would fall for something like that. With the last judge defeated, I gain access to the Citadel, leading me into Act 2. The first area that we get to explore is the Underworks, where the Citadel's trash goes to be grinded up into bits, as you can perfectly see as me being shredded to bits. Not only is the place trying to kill me, it's trying to make me go broke with the fact you have to pay per bench use. Thank you, Team Cherry, I have to deal with real life inflation and in-game inflation. And when the Underworks isn't trying to grind me up or make me broke, the workers try to gang up on me and beat me to death. 100% approved safe work environment by OSHA. Once done beating up the lower class, I make it to the Coral Chambers, where I run into Lace, who starts to say some important story stuff, but I was too distracted by her mushroom head to listen. Then some higher being wasn't too happy about that and brought the dead or slumbering bugs back to life to kill me. I'm still not too sure even after playing this game if they were dead or just sleeping. Feeling like shit was about to hit the fan, I decided to head back down below with the peasants to finish off the Polyp quest, which when finishing gives you the Polyp pouch. When the pouch is equipped, it will turn all my tools into poison weapons, inflicting poison damage on the enemies, and depending on the offensive tool that are being used with this, will do some insane damage. After getting the pouch, I head back to the Citadel to unlock Songclave, whose residents also want me to do their dirty work. Great. I then meet an elite enemy that I will spend an absurd amount of time with in the future for grinding purposes. Once done beating up the big beetle guys, I meet my next challenge, the Cogwork Dancers. And I have to say, this is one of the best fights in the entire game. For me personally, they are my third favorite fights in the game. Not only are they challenging, but they are extremely fair with how well telegraphed their attacks are. What's even better is when you are fighting them and their music starts to get faster, they too get faster. The whole experience of the fight was just amazing, and I have to applaud Team Cherry for that. I just wish I didn't die 41 times to them. Bright side, I got to listen to their OST 41 times. If you think that's a lot of deaths, guess down below in the comments the total death count for the run. The tricky part of this fight was trying to keep track of which dancer I was attacking. For those who do not know, you only need to stun or kill one of the dancers. So if you can stay focused on just one for damage, you can speed up the fight dramatically. So my main plan was to focus on just one dancer and use Threaded Storm. The dancers have a lot of safe openings to get Threaded Storm off. I just made sure when I was using it that the second dancer wasn't aiming in my general direction. The best time to get this skill off is when the dancers come together to do their AoE attack, because after they finish, they hang out in the air for a second, which gives you enough time to get Threaded Storm off to hit both dancers. Now, when the dancers come together, they twirl together, so it makes it hard to know if they switch sides or not, but from repeated attempts, I found they don't switch sides. Also, for this fight, I made sure to use the Reaper Crest so that I could build Silk as fast as possible. Once the dancers have been stunned for a second time, they are no longer synced together and will attack after the other one attacks. For this phase, I strictly focused on using Threaded Storm when they were hugging. I found it was just too risky to use it any other time. So with just that, I was finally able to win. Wait, what the fuck? Oh, you gotta be fucking with me. You motherfuck! And after 3 more attempts, I was able to win. We don't need to talk about this. Ever. With the dancers defeated, 3 talking statues appear who task me with finding 3 melodies, but I said, fuck that, I'm going to explore. Which I found myself once again in the Underworks, where I get another spindle upgrade, do some hardcore parkour through some lava floors, and obtain the claw line ability, which will allow me to fling myself across an area for a single use of Silk. It will also allow me to hook onto these ring objects, and I can use this to bounce off enemies. By far my favorite movement tech in the game. With the claw line obtained, I can now meet the Architect, who was the one who made the 4th chorus and will sell me new tools and a very important key later on. Noticing that she had a crafting kit, I grinded for some beads to be able to buy it. While grinding, I meet loyal Mergwin, who has oil which I could use for a needle upgrade, but he wants me to help him make a meal for his master before he'll give it to me. The first ingredient I got was the mossberry stew from the Moss Druid. The second ingredient was at Craig's place in his basement, where I had to take on a damn army of ants, and with not being able to heal, it did not make for a good time. So finally, after 30ish minutes of trying and playing a bit dirty to kill the gym bro ant, I was able to get the vintage nectar. Seriously, Craig, get some ant spray or something. With that traumatic experience over with, I saved 2 brothers so that I can hand deliver the courier's rasher, but after multiple attempts with no success, I decided to put this quest on hold. Still in a bit of an exploring mood, I went back to Moss Grotto and ended up finding the Chapel of the Wanderer, which gives me the Wanderer's Crest, aka Hollow Knight's moveset. As y'all already know at this point, Crest changes Hornet's attacks and overall playstyle, but not only do they do that, but they also have their own tool layout. Some crests have a balanced approach of giving you 2 slots per tool type, while others can heavily focus on one tool type. I really like this because now builds aren't just tied to tools-charms like they were in Hollow Knight. You can have different build loadouts depending on which crest you want to use, and you don't have to constantly rechange the tools. They will stay on that crest even after changing them, which was great for me since I like to use the Wanderer's Crest while exploring, but use the Reaper Crest for tough fights. So once done with those tough fights, I could just switch right back to my exploring set without having to reset my tools. Might only save a few seconds, but I appreciate it. While exploring, I realized I finished New's quest, so I decided to pay him a visit, and then he tried to get a bit too friendly with Hornet. Sorry, Short King, one day you'll find your shorty. I then slay some roaches to complete a quest that gives me the tack tools, which will be very helpful for an upcoming boss. Being that I was at Sinner's Road and in a good mood, I freed the Green Prince. I then adventure into the high halls, dominating the platforming section with my godlike gamer skills, to then find the best tool in the entire game. Trust me, they are fucking busted, especially with another crest that I'll get later on. With the high halls explored, I am then introduced to probably the second hardest arena gauntlet in this run. You see, Team Cherry had the fun idea to get one of the melodies that the player would have to beat 11 waves of enemies. To remind y'all, just in case you forgot, I can't heal. So with only having a +1 needle and taking almost an hour alone to even beat the 6th wave while dying to it, it did not amount to a good time. The worst part of all of this was grinding for shards to even use my tools. With tools costing shards to use, it led to me grinding way more than I wanted to, and I can't lie, I did get frustrated with the amount of grinding this game can have you do. With that said, I knew I needed to get some new abilities and upgrade my needle, which led me to the Whispering Vaults, where I did find an oil just lying around. So I of course ran to the smithy to upgrade my needle to +2, and not long after getting that upgrade, I found Mount Fae. Mount Fae possibly has some of the best platforming that the game has to offer. I was hoping it was going to be close to how the Path of Pain was in Hollow Knight, but sadly Mount Fae wasn't on that crazy level of difficulty. Tragically, the fun platforming did come to an end, and I acquired the double jump ability. With now having this ability, I could actually access a secret area above the arena gauntlet at the high halls. That would allow me to permanently stop any silt draining enemies from spawning. With now having to deal with less enemies and dealing more damage, I was able to make it to the final wave. And it was just not one mini boss, but 2 mini bosses at the same time. Who hurt y'all, Team Cherry? Who? I knew at this point I needed a 3rd weapon upgrade, but while working on that side quest, I found Wisps Thicket, where my 2nd least boss resides. I tried to fight this projectile tracking mess of a boss 8 times before I moved on. I then continued to explore, finding the Silk Speed Anklets, buying the Thief's Mark, meeting Ava, who will upgrade the Hunter's Crest and give you a permanent tool slot. I upgrade my Spindle, bought the Magma Bell to help with fire damaging bosses, collected the Curved Claw and Fractured Mask from Hunter's Mark, bought another crafting kit to help with tool damage, and finally finished the meat delivery quest thanks to the Silk Speed Anklets. On that note, whoever designed this quest must have been fans of Ratchet and Clank's, because this was giving me childhood trauma flashbacks to the sewer escape section in that game. Childhood trauma aside, I make my way to Sinner's Road so that I can fight Legoli for the next item that I need for the oil quest. Legoli was a pretty challenging boss, with her able to cover so much ground quickly, plus with her large size, it could make it hard to not get hit by her. On top of that, she can send maggot orbs at you. Luckily, for me, I can't heal, so the maggots don't really affect me that much. This cafeteria lady, on steroids, ended up killing me 11 times. What I found that helped me win this fight was when Legoli would swing her ladle, I could run under and get behind her to get Threaded Storm off. Combine this with getting pogos off on her dash attacks, plus getting a few hits in on the side to build silk, I was finally able to bring her down to get Pickled Muck Maggot. With that item acquired, I just needed Crust Nut, which is located in the sands of Karak. The neat thing about the sands of Karak is that you can knock over these yellow orbs that grow out platforms that you need to cross before they disintegrate. I actually got so distracted by this that I ended up in a boss fight instead of fighting the item that I needed. That said boss is the surviving sibling to the Conchfly fight, except this time they got their children involved. What's up with Team Cherry and having their bosses use their own children as fodder? On top of using children as weapons, the Conchfly is much faster than its last fight, which led to a good amount of deaths. Funny enough, the strategy to win this fight was really simple. Do a single pogo on dash attacks, use Threaded Storm when the boss tries to shoot a projectile to deal damage while destroying the drill, and just play it slow. With these three things, I was able to no-hit the raging Conchfly on my 11th attempt. After killing off an entire Conchfly family, I find the Conch Cutter in the Coral Tower, and shortly after this, I nab the well-hidden Crust Nut. With now having all the ingredients, I can help Mergwyn make a weird-looking cake for his boss, so that I can get the oil to get my needle to +3. Having the most powerful needle that I can have at this point, I felt ready to take on the 11-wave gauntlet again. Sadly, just having the +3 needle wasn't going to be enough, and I had to come up with a plan. For wave 1, I used Threaded Storm on Staff Guy, and then used the other two bugs to refill my silk. Wave 2 used Threaded Storm into 2 hits to kill the bug on the right, and then kill the remaining bug on the right side so that when wave 3 comes in, I can use Threaded Storm to spawn kill the bell bug. After that, use the remaining bug to refill silk. Wave 4 used the Threaded Storm to kill one of the metal heads. I did not mean to summon out Joey. I guess he thought his mama could use some help, which messed me up because I was supposed to use that bug to refill my silk, so when wave 5 came in, I had to act fast to get back on plan. On to wave 6, play a game of hit and run, which was going well until I ran into the mini-boss. The worst part is he died in the next hit after that. The plan was way off track at this point, so I just went buck wild with Threaded Storm to kill the next 3 waves to get me to the final 11th wave without getting hit. Immediately at the start of the wave, I summoned as many poison cogflies and poison spiked mines as possible to instantly kill one of the mini bosses. But in the clusterfuck of all that, I got hit 3 times, leaving me with only 1 mask. Which means I have to no-hit this thick son of a bitch. I was dodging left and right, getting hits in when I could, jumping over AoEs while harpooning across the map. At this moment in time, I wasn't playing as a king, I was playing as motherfucking Hornet, and Hornet doesn't lose. Hey, I see you typing in the comments that the knight beat her twice in Hollow Knight. That was just her being nice to her younger sibling. That doesn't count. With that hellhole of a challenge over with, I gained my first melody and hope to God the other 2 aren't like this. Afterwards, I somehow found myself in Biowater where I found a crying twisted bud. Its purpose won't be needed for a minute. I then stumble across the magnificent Trobio, who dazzled me with his fabulous moves that allowed him to kill me 4 times. Definitely wasn't because I got smart on my 4th attempt and weakened him to his 2nd phase and then spam poison Cogflies to win. I wish I could say the same when I'm fighting him later on. After that fight, I revisited the fire tree with my magma bell this time, doing a bit of pogoing, a bit of dodging to finally win this fight on my 12th attempt. I then bought a 4th max piece to now have 7 masks, so now it will only take 4 hits to kill me. Technically 5, but you know what I mean. I complete some more quests. I found Savage Beastfly 2.0, but this time I am Hornet 3.0, so he went down pretty quick, since I could also summon ads this time. I then discovered the Putrefied Ducks, which led me to the Huntress, which gave me quests to kill enemies with my tools to harvest organs for her, and my reward was the Long Claw, aka Long Nail. Also, I would like to point out, I did die a lot when traveling from point A to point B. I just figured it wasn't really worth talking about because Joey! No! You killed Joey!
You bastards!
After avenging Joey's death, I find Vogue, who will help me find fleas, but at the cost of a shit ton of beads. I get to feel broke in real life and in the game. Great. I then find the Sacred Cylinder, which will earn me the 2nd melody. I like how Team Cherry was like, for this melody you'll go through hell, but for this one you can just pick it up. At this point, I finally owned enough tools to be able to buy the Architect's Key, allowing me to open the door above the Architect to get the Architect Crest, which when equipped changes my attack to a drill and gives me 3 red tool slots and the ability to refill tools with silk. Probably hands down the most busted crest in the game, and in not too long I will show you why. With earning another crest, I visit Ava again to get a permanent blue tool slot. With that done, I buy some flea locations so that I can gather as many fleas as possible so that the flea caravan will move to the Putrefied Ducks. I had to do this to get a secret side quest that will allow me to access Act 3. I think someone at Team Cherry was a fan of Kingdom Hearts 1, where you had to find all 99 Dalmatians to get the secret ending at the end. Speaking of games Team Cherry likes, I think they also are really fans of Devil May Cry 4's Forest Mission, which was a maze that you had to walk through specific spots to get to the actual location, because the mist area is just that, but easier since you have bugs that will guide you. Where do they guide you, you may ask? Well, they will lead you to the exhaust organ, where the lovely Phantom resides, a feisty lady that knows her way around a needle. I actually enjoyed this fight so much that I didn't even use tools to help out. I will say the fight was a bit on the easier side, it only took me 3 tries to win, but still a really fun fight nonetheless. Which after beating her you get the parry silk skill, even though it acts more like a counter attack than a parry. With Phantom defeated, I help Shakra find her master that's taking a very long nap. I then find 3 cog pieces that once turned into the Architect, she makes a heart out of it, which I can then place in this little guy right here, who will actually go around fighting other bugs in the Citadel, which I thought was really cool. I do a fun platform section up Cogworks to solve a puzzle to get the 3rd melody, and with that I can access the Cradle, where Lace is blocking my way once again, but this time she has been eating her Wheaties and slapped me around like a little bitch. She was faster, had new attack patterns I had to learn, and on top of that she had a 3rd phase where she said fuck it and started spamming AoE attacks like crazy. So to counter this chaos, I took a page out of the Trobio fight, where I got her to a 3rd phase and just spam poison attacks and poison Conchflies, while I run away in fear as my children do my fighting for me, earning me my well-fought victory on my 11th attempt. After the fight, we find out Lace is the Holy Mother's daughter and the one pulling all the strings to this chaos. But first, I needed to own a home, complete all the well quests, and I believe Sherma's quest, so that I could get the Silk Soul quest for the secret Act 3. But while helping Sherma, I stumbled onto this thick fella right here. Mr. Giganto not only takes up most of the boss room, but you have to fight ads multiple times in his fights, and deal with heat-seeking spears. Lovely. So this guy was a bit of a doozy for me since I was out of shards at the time and couldn't just bully him with tools, which led to me dying 13 times. The trick to this fight was staying on one side as long as possible. You see, Big Boy here can shoot out projectiles in different random patterns. So instead of dealing with that, if you just hang out on one side while jumping, you can avoid it for the most part. And right after he shoots, he does a dash attack that you can run behind him and get some hits in. For when he dashes at me, I would just use the parry skill to do a lot of damage to him. Now, when the spears come into play, they do have one attack that will heat seek you, which you can tell by the large cluster of dust. When I would see this happen, I would just make sure to run to the other side. Now, when you see one spear, or especially two spears, you can stay next to the boss and hit him since they always have a set pattern of coming out from the side and then finishing in the middle. But with just repeating this over and over, I was finally able to win. Before starting this Silken Souls quest, I get Sharp Dart, which I will never use, and the Plasma File, which I only really use to help me get to benches safely. After this, I returned the Screaming Weed to Greyroot, who decided to infect me with a curse that I then had to go get cured to get the Witch Crest, which its ability revolves around healing, so I never used it. I was then challenged by the Citadel to a duel, and I of course couldn't turn down a good fight. The Citadel got me on round 1 and 2, but on round 3, I switched to a more parry-focused playstyle, which got me by enough to pull out the win. With that done, I start working on the Silken Soul quest by nabbing the Shaman's Soul and the Hermit's Soul. For the Seeker's Soul, you have to go to the wonderful world of Bilewater to take on a gauntlet of trash mobs to then fight the boss. And if you die to the boss, you then have to fight the trash mobs all over again. I really don't like this, and I don't think I need to elaborate why. So the plan came to be use the Architect Crest with the Poison Cogflies, Boomerang, and Throwing Rings. Before this, buy a shit ton of shard bundles so that I can refill my tools as much as I need. Then let my tools do all the work while I reap all the rewards, because fuck learning this boss fight without healing. With now having the Seeker's Soul and somehow getting the Snare Setter, I can complete the quest that allows me to enter Act 3, which means it's boss time. Grandmother Silk is my second favorite fight in the entire game. I feel like she is a combination of the Conchflies with her well-telegraphed needle attacks, the Cog Dancer's room AoE attack, the fourth course environmental obstacles with her floor spikes, and of course rocks falling from the sky like Moss Mother. I enjoyed this fight so much, I actually refused to use red tools for it and took them off entirely. I didn't care that it made the fight a lot harder, I was just enjoying the experience of learning this fun fight. This is where I also learned how busted Threaded Storm can be. I found with just 2 procs I could stun Grandmother and get a third off while she was stunned. With only a few hits after that, I sent her to the second phase, and that only took me 36 seconds to do so. From here, I'm just gonna let the rest of the fight play out because it was a really cool fight. With Grandmother defeated on my 13th attempt, I was able to use the Needlon to summon the Abyss to trap Grandmother, but she grabs Hornet, pulling her in until Lace comes in and sacrifices herself for Hornet, leading us into Act 3, the Abyss. We start off back where we fought Lace for the second time, but find out very quickly things are not the same in Pharloom anymore. The Abyss is going around rampant, possessing bugs and beefing them up with more health and new powers. But luckily my friend, the Sentinel, is having no issues keeping the streets safe. I then try to fast travel, but instead I am greeted with a Centipede boss. The Bell Eater starts off as a tricky fight, since when you get his HP low, it will attack with its ass and face at the same time, making it a bit hard to survive. I ended up dying 7 times. Dealing with the head was always easy since I could get Threaded Storm off, but when the ass came out, I had to play a bit more safe and knock away its explosive shit so that I could get a hit in. You would think trying to hit both heads at the same time would be the best option, but it usually led to more issues. So I just stuck with my simple 2-step plan, and sure enough, I was able to no-hit the sucker until Bell Beast arrived to save the day. And look, she has children! I actually showed this to my girlfriend, who said Bell Beast looks like Aeron from Pokemon, so she called her Aaron and her children Eron, Iron, and Ooron. I am now forced to call them that against my will. With fast traveling unlocked, we find out the snail shamans pretty much knew this was going to happen, and Hornet sets off to figure out how to save Lace. Which brings us to Deep Docks, where the 4 brothers block our way. The lovely thing about this fight is that the ads that spawn can randomly get possessed by the Abyss, making things a bit more tricky. My solution to this was to knock them into the lava because it instantly kills them. For dealing with the actual brothers, I just focused on parrying attacks, which made quick work of Cygnus, and not long after that Gron went down, leading me to win on my 7th attempt. With the brothers defeated, I can now access the Abyss. The Abyss is home to Team Cherry's fucked up creations, because what the fuck is this? After being sucked off against my will, I make it to the bottom of the Abyss where the Monarch lies, and Lace apparently can Jedi Force talk with us? Pretty much telling us she has mommy issues, but Hornet is like, I can fix her, so we set off once again to find a way to rescue Lace. Before leaving the Abyss, I was forced to get a new movement tech ability called Silk Soar, which will allow me to launch myself high up into the sky. Good thing, because how the hell am I gonna get away from all this lava? Not going to lie, this part gave me more trouble than I would like to admit to, but at the same time, it was some really cool platforming. After escaping the Abyss, I get the final crest in the game, the Shaman Crest, which gives me a bit of a range attack, allows me to have 3 silk skills on at a time, and it makes my silk skills do more damage. So from this point on, I decided to just use this crest. I knew the bosses were going to get harder from here, and I really didn't want to rely on tools to win, since I've been doing a lot of that so far, and for the fact I didn't want to grind shards anymore. Wanting some more spells, I took on the First Sinner. The First Sinner is kind of like Widow, but if Widow could use silk skills. What I like about this fight is how fast it is. I really feel like I can use the full speed of Hornet to get an attack or get away. I found most boss fights I had to play a bit slow or safe, but for this one I could actually play more aggressive, which was my preferred playstyle. For phase 1, I mainly focus on just getting basic hits in to fill my silk bar, and if I would get her stunned, I would use Threaded Storm. Once in phase 2, I switched to focusing on getting parries off for my main source of damage, but if I did stun her, I definitely used Threaded Storm. I just repeated this a few times until she was defeated, earning me the Rune Rage, which is a room-wide attack, but sadly the attack is RNG of where the circles are going to get placed, so it's not the best skill to use for clearing trash mobs. With the First Sinner defeated, I head back to the top of the Citadel to get Pale Nails, aka Homing Soul Mask for my soul players. Having 2 new skills, I just needed a blue tool to finish off my silk skill build, and guarding that item is Moss Mother, but the interesting thing about this fight, besides the fact that you have to fight 2 Moss Mothers, is that they are corrupted by the Abyss, which is not the case if you fight them in Act 2. Which means Team Cherry took into account if you miss certain side bosses that they too would get possessed by the Abyss, which is really fucking cool, but also really sucks at the same time because they hit a lot harder and have more HP. These possessed bitches killed me 13 times. There was no strategy for this. It was simply DPS, fast, and hard. It was the only way I could finally kill one of the mothers, so that I could have a 1v1 match, which at that point was a joke. Upon winning, I earned the Wave Light tool, which will generate silk for me. After this, I took on the Pinterest because she wanted to die an honorable death, but I just found myself dying over and over again. Until I realized on my 7th attempt, I could just run away while my silk charges to just use Pale Needle over and over again until she loses. Honestly, with this build, it's no different than using the tools. With Pinterest defeated, I fight Brood Mother, who I thought maybe Rune Rage would be good on, but nope, it just found ways to miss most enemies and the boss. So after trying this 4 times, I just switched to pogoing, Threaded Storm, and parries to get the job done. Then came Tormented Trobio, and oh boy, did this dude want some revenge. He went from beating me 4 times to 22 times. Granted, I wasn't using tools this time, but still, his attacks got a lot harder to deal with. He's faster this time around, he has more firework attacks that can cover the entire arena, his tornado attack splits into 2 afterwards that leaves a trail of explosives, he can do a giant X attack, and his ball attack is more ferocious than before. I actually had to start knocking them away this time, but don't knock them up or it'll just make things worse. Really, the only strategy I found was pogoing off his head when he does his tornado attack, since after it splits, you will still be safe, using parries to get decent damage in, and if he so happens to get stunned, use Threaded Storm. Besides that, I spent most of my time running for dear life. Honestly, I think I just got lucky on my 23rd attempt that I even won at all, because he could have easily have killed me at any moment. A hard fight, but I can't deny Trobio's got style. With that horde of bosses dealt with, I get the Elegy of the Deep so that I can enter the memories of once powerful beings. First up on the list is the Coral Tower, and oh boy, do I have some news for y'all. This is a multi-room gauntlet, where each room you have to fight hordes of enemies, and if you lose at any point before finishing room 3, you have to do it all over again. Now, for this run, this is extremely hard because I can't heal, but in a normal run, this isn't bad. The devs actually place a lot of docile enemies you can hit to refill your silk after every fight, so you can definitely get a heal or 2 in before moving on to the next room, which is very good game design. It's just a shame I can't use it. Things got so rough, in fact, a viewer suggested I go to Vault Nest and beat Voltfrom, which upon defeating gives you the Vault Pharloom, which makes your silk skills electric and deal more damage, which did help, but not enough to the point it sped things up. Nope, it took me 3.5 hours of attempts to finally beat all 3 rounds to get to the checkpoint. And it's only because of one thing, a strategy that many don't know, but only a few do. It's called luck. Because the spike floors in room 3 didn't spawn at all for some reason, so I took full advantage of that shit. The way I like to look at it is that the game got so tired of me trying over and over again, so it just let me have it. The fun part after this is there's a 4th room where you have to fight more enemies and then a boss. Again, I asked the question, Team Cherry, who hurt you? The way I beat Crust Lord over here was abusing Pale Nails, Threaded Storm, and regenerating Silk. Sounds easy, but still took me 6 attempts to get his attack patterns down before I could finally win, earning me the Encrusted Heart. Up next is the Shellwood area where Seth, the Shrine Guardian, is blocking my way. The super cool thing Team Cherry did here was offer Seth Goldman, a young individual who is a big fan of Team Cherry, who sadly was diagnosed with cancer. So Team Cherry offered for him to design a character for them, which happens to be the boss I am fighting now. I wish Seth got to see the character he made in action, but unfortunately that is not the case. I am happy to say though, Seth Goldman's memory will forever live on in Silksong, and in mine for how much his character kicked my butt. Seth beat me 9 times. During those many attempts, I found that I could bait out his slam AoE attack by just running away. After Seth does his AoE attack, he dashes in, which I could then get a Threaded Storm off. When I didn't have any silk, I would just pogo instead. Even when Seth entered his 2nd phase, I kept the same strategy, even though he does 3 AoE slams before dashing. And with just that, I was able to take down the mighty warrior that is Seth. With Seth defeated, I was able to take on Nylith. Nylith was a really fun boss where you had to utilize the walls to dodge her attacks, but not only that, when she enters her second phase, the floor goes away, so you now have to do the entire fight while wall climbing, which gave me a bit of trouble at first, but overall not too hard to figure out. At the start of phase 1, you can get a threaded storm off. After that, I would just rebuild Silk, and anytime she would summon spike balls, I would make sure to hit them back at her face. By just doing this, I got her to phase 2 rather quickly. For phase 2, I just waited for her to do her dash attack and jump right above her head to get Threaded Storm off. Right afterwards, I would go for a double jump and harpoon to the other side to be safe. And that's all I had to do to beat her. You might be wondering, why didn't I just spam Pale Nails since it can shoot from a distance? Well, come to find out, the range of Pale Nails is actually pretty short, and you need to be relatively close for it to go off. So with that, and for the fact that Threaded Storm just does more damage overall, the best option was to just wait for dash attacks to use Threaded Storm, which luckily only took me 5 attempts to win, earning me the Pollen Heart. With only 1 heart left, that just left me with Carmelitia, who is located in Hunter's March, and of course you have to fight a gauntlet of ant enemies before fighting her. Not like the Coral Tower was enough, wasn't it? Why not add more arena matches? Why not? Which kind of sucks because Carr is by far my favorite fight in the game, and it was a bit frustrating having to fight a horde of enemies to be able to actually fight her. The strategy for beating the horde was lancing the bugs to the right, killing one and leaving the other one a hit away from dying. After that, kill the small ant to get Silk back up to use Pale Nails to weaken the other ants so that they die in a few hits. For the final wave, I would use Pale Nails again and then hit the elite bug 3 times to kill. For the final elite bug though, I would just fight him normally to build Silk back up for the boss fight. Now for Carr, as I like to call her. I honestly think Carr is the best designed boss in the entire game. She takes pretty much every mechanic we have learned so far and makes you use it against her to beat her, and to me those are the best late game bosses, where all your past experience comes together to help you fight one of the hardest bosses in the game. I normally only show off final boss fights, but this fight was so fun and intense that y'all have to see it. It took 20 deaths to beat Carr, but my god, was it fun. I was smiling even when I was losing because I enjoyed the fight so much. With that said, I earned the Hunter's Heart, which means I can finish the game, but first, I enter the Green Prince's Memories to do a bit of puzzle solving, fight a white stag boss that took me 3 tries to beat, and finally take on the Prince himself with his invisible twin. The Prince fight is basically the same as the Cog Dancers, but this time you can only damage the Prince, and when they do their combined attack, it's a spinning tornado this time. Which I found the best way to dodge it was by wall jumping and then using the harpoon. I tried just using double jump, but it never worked out. With my experience with the Cog Dancers, this fight was relatively easy since I already knew how to time Threaded Storm on them. My god, how many times have I said Threaded Storm? I feel like a damn broken record. Anyways, due to that, this fight only took me 9 tries to complete. A really good fight with a very sad ending. After this, I returned to the Snail Shamans to be sent into Hornet's Memories to retrieve the Everbloom, and with the Everbloom, I can return to the Abyss to finally free Lace. Or fight her again, that's fine. So Team Cherry is also a fan of Devil May Cry 3 Virgil fights. No complaints here, but I will say, did Lost Lace really need 4 phases? The girl was already on some Abyss crack with 3 phases, but y'all went added a 4th one where she just shot up some meth while she was at it to make this fight insanely hard. Hands down, the hardest fight in the game. Not just because she has 4 phases, but the entire arena is black and pretty much all of her attacks are black. So it made it easy to misread or even just not see the attack at all. I tried so many combinations to make this fight easier, failing each time. I even came close to saying fuck it and just letting the cogs do all the work because I was just getting that frustrated with it. But I knew if I just kept trying, I could learn this fight without relying on that strategy. So for 3 hours and 24 minutes, I fought Lost Lace, and this is my winning attempt. Enjoy. It's like I tell people, I'm not good at games, I'm just hard-headed. With that said, this run comes to an end. The total playtime was 67 hours and 43 minutes, with an insane death count of 1,000 on the dot. I have no clue how that happened, or what the odds would be for that to happen, but nonetheless, this was one hell of a journey that I will definitely not forget, and definitely in the top 5 hardest runs I have ever done. With all that said, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, hit that subscribe button. At this time, I would also like to thank my channel supporters. If you too would like to support the channel, or have your name in the video, you can click the Patreon link in the description, or click the YouTube join button. I also from time to time stream my runs, so you can catch me streaming on YouTube or over on Twitch at Kane Gaming. I want to thank you all for watching, and until next time, take care.